Today we've got a little 20 amp MPPT charge controller from Bateria Power. This is their Sunrock 20 Pro. Let's open it up. There's the user's manual and there's an app, so this must be Bluetooth. And here's the unit. And this is one of those inline kind of charge controllers. Like, it's very portable. You could just plug it into your solar panel and then the other side goes into your battery. It also has these screw holes that you could mount it. It's a really neat little kind of portable unit. And then here's some wire leads that you could hook up some MC4 connectors on, which is probably what we'll do. And then the other side, you could just install some ring terminals to hook up to your battery. Oh look, it even comes with the screws, some long screws, if you do want to mount it. Okay, so it's a 20 amp MPPT. It's 3-stage charging. Suitable battery types is gel, AGM, and lithium iron phosphate. It has overcharge, over temperature, and reverse polarity protection. It's a 12 or 24 volt, and the PV VOC cannot exceed 60 volts. So you got to keep the solar panel voltage open circuit lower than 60 volts, which is not terrible. It says to avoid direct sunlight on the unit. It says the max solar input is 300 watts at 12 volts and 600 watts at 24 volts. Okay, now it does actually say here the max solar input voltage at 12 volt is 30 volt open circuit. And the max solar input voltage for 24 volt is 60 volt open circuit. So you can't just throw a 60 volt panel on this if you're doing 12 volt apparently. All right, well, let's hook it up to a battery and get it powered up. All right, so I got one of the terminals connected to this battery, and I did strip back the wire some more. And it does seem like it is pretty close to 12 gauge when I stripped it back. I even use the 12 gauge notch on my stripper and it worked like it should. So I think it's probably pretty close. All right, now the thing that I just noticed is there's a little sticker here that says app is Charge Pro 2.0, which is, I've already got that installed. It's the same one that the Lifetime and the Redodo uses, and I've also got the Charge Pro 2.0 directly from Helios, which appears to be the manufacturer of most of these. So let's power this thing up and we'll try the Charge Pro app that I've already got installed here. Alright, so the unit has come on. Seems to be set for gel. It's showing the voltage and it has an amperage reading here, but there's no amps because we don't have any solar plugged in. So let's try to connect to it with the app. I do see something called Charge Pro. Let's try to connect to that. Now I think that's it. So it's showing 13.2 volts here. No solar input, obviously. Let's go to parameters. Oh, let's see if we can change the battery type. Guess we'll change it to lithium. Confirm. And look at there. Sure did. It sure did move the light over to the lithium iron phosphate setting. Very neat. Now you're supposed to be able to set that from here as well, but you know, if you got the app, why try to fiddle with that single little button right there? Now I'm definitely interested, since this is so small, there's really no heat sink on this thing. I'm curious how it's going to handle doing 20 amps. And the other thing is I don't have but a few small, like 130 watt, there's a 100 watt there, and then I got another 100 watt and a 50 watt 12 volt panels to run to this thing to stay under that 30 volts that they say for 12 volt. Well, okay, I actually ended up crimping the MC4 terminals with my 12 gauge slot on my crimper, and they are on very solid. So I'm guessing it's around 12 gauge, so that should be proper wire size. And if you don't already have some MC4 crimps, I'll put a link in the description for you. These are so handy. All right, well, let's try to do this at 12 volt. I don't really have enough panels, like I said, but we'll just do it just to get started. And then we'll move up to 24 volts because we need to test both, right? All right, so I got this 130 watt 12 volt panel hooked up. This is the one that wasn't doing really great in the last power station review that I did. So hopefully there's nothing wrong with it. Let's go take a look and see if we're doing something. Looks like we are doing something. Now we got 5.6 amps. Let's see how much watts this thing says. Okay, so we're doing 74 watts. It shows status is MPPT. Well, let me hook up another panel and see if I can get a little bit more output. All right, there we go. We got 146 watts and we've got 10 amps going in. Okay, this is strange. This thing is cool. This is producing very little heat, if any at all. So it's doing half its power. Let's see, we've got 97.1 on the desk and 99.3. So just a few more degrees on the controller. That's pretty wild. How is this not getting hot? It's showing 94 back here. And it's hotter on the... I don't understand. That's pretty wild, guys. So I can't wait to test this at a full 20 amps, but I don't have enough. You know, these are really my two most powerful 12 volt panels. So I'm gonna have to step it up to 24 volts and do some bigger panels. All right, so I did get it connected to a 24 volt battery and I got an error. It says EO2, which if we look that up in the manual, EO2 is battery over voltage. So that just means that it thinks we should be hooked up to a 12 volt battery because that's what we were initially hooked up to. And now we're hooked up to a 24 volt battery. And so that error would be correct. We probably just need to go into the app and set it to 24 volts. Yeah, there we go. So we need to change the system voltage. Okay, so we've selected 24 volts here. Let's confirm. All right, so I went ahead and changed all the settings for me and should be good. All right, looks like the error code cleared and we should be good to hook up some solar now. I think first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a load on this battery to draw it down some. So we'll hook up this Zero Breeze AC. And while that is spinning up, I'm gonna go throw a couple solar panels out there in the sun. We got one plugged in and we're doing 256 watts of power. So 267 right there, and we're doing 10 amps of current. Our solar voltage is at 33.5 and our battery voltage is at 26.6. Still not feeling any heat from this guy. All right, so let me go ahead and throw another panel out there. So we got 14.5 amps, 385 watts. And it's so hot out there, I'm dying. We do have a little bit of dirt on this one. Maybe we should clear it off. Yeah, so it looks like 397 watts is about all I can get out of those two panels. 14.8 amps. I'm probably not going to be able to get full 20 amps because I don't think I have enough panels at the right voltage. Again, this thing is not getting warm. Strange. All right, so let's do this. So we're doing 393 here at 14.6 amps at 32.7 volts on the solar input. Let's change this out for another MPPT and see what we get. Okay, so we're going to use the synthesis that we had so much fun with. And guys, I apologize. When I bought this, it was $33. And then after I released the video, they ramped that price up to $80 something. And so I took the video down and then they lowered the price. And so I put it back up. Did not know they were going to pull that, but they did. All right, so let's hook up this solar to this. See what we get. Well, okay. So it's showing we only got 379 watts and 13.93 amps with this guy. So this thing was doing better. Wow. Yeah, this thing was harvesting a lot more energy, guys. Where we're getting pretty much close to 15 amps at almost 400 watts with this dude. And nothing has changed. There's no clouds or anything like that. It's still the same. The sky is completely sunny. It has been all day. You know, there's maybe a little bit of water vapor up there, but there's no chunky clouds or nothing. So nothing has changed, and it took me maybe 10 minutes to swap these controllers over. So we're doing better than this guy. And he was at like 94-95% efficient. We're gonna break out the big guns and see how it compares to a Victron. All right, we got the brand that everybody loves and hates. Either you love them or you hate them. I think they're great. Victron, in my opinion, are really up there, guys. All right, so we got the app pulled up. Let's plug in some solar. Now, it usually takes the Victron a little bit more time to kind of scan through to figure out what's the most power. So give it a second. All right, so it looks like we may have settled down around 380, well, almost 390. So we're doing 14.2 amps, which is still not as good as it was with this one. It's close. I mean, we could probably say it's within the margin of error. Okay, yeah, I think we've leveled out. We're about 14.2 amps, 388 watts. So let's swap back over to this guy and see what we get. Okay, so we're swapped back over. Let's pull the app back up and plug the solar back in. Okay, so we got voltage coming in here. Back into MPPT mode. We got 351 watts going in, 13.15 amps. We're climbing here on the wattage, 13.65, 370 watts. Let's check with the clamp meter to make sure that this is correct, that 13.5 amps. Oh, now it's 13.76 amps. Well, not too far off. 12.7 and then 13.3 here. Yeah, it looks like 13.7, 370 watts, so not too far off. And then we're showing 13.12. 13.12 on the clamp meter. So close to what we're seeing here. 371 on. It's killing it, guys. It seemed like it was doing a little bit better first, and then we went swapping around to this, and it seems like maybe we're right around the same level as this was. And the Victron did have seem like a slight edge over this and this one, but we're not far behind. We're just really nipping on the heels, and this thing is just not really super warm. All right, so I think what happened when I first hooked up the little charge controller, I had just put these panels out in the sun, and they hadn't gotten sun soaked yet. They weren't hot, so that's why we were showing close to 400 watts. And so then when I switched over, by the time I switched over to the synthesis, those things have soaked up a lot of heat. The efficiency probably went down, and so then we basically were seeing similar results that we're seeing now with this. So I think this is basically on par with this guy, with the Victron giving us a little bit more. Like, I think it was at 14.2 amps and 388 watts instead of 374 and 13.8. All right, guys, so we're gonna have to crack into this thing because I want to see what it looks like on the inside. I'm really surprised that it's not just like getting really hot. I did try to lift off the plastic piece on the back, but I didn't find any screws. I found some kind of spots where it looked like screws probably come through on the front side. So we're gonna peel the front side up to see if we find any screws. Oh yeah, there's one right there. Here we go. I should be able to open it up, and there it is. All right, so we see the little Bluetooth radio here, the display, microcontroller. Seems to be stuck down I think it might be potted in there, so I don't want to rip it out. But I do see the inductor, where the inductor is mounted. I can see it in there. I don't think you can pick it up on camera, but I can just barely see it down there at the very bottom. So yeah, it does appear to be an actual MPPT controller. All right, let's put it back together before we tear it up. All right, guys, so we're gonna get the full 20 amps running through this thing because I've got a 48-volt battery here that I built in this ammo tin a while back. You guys might have watched that video. If you did, I was trying to come up with some solution for the bottom, and I did actually. I got this kind of rubber tread plate stuff from Harbor Freight, and it had a sticky side, but I took the sticky stuff off and I used like some silicone adhesive or something like that, but it works real nice. Okay, anyways, what I've done is I've put some MC4 connectors on this thing so it can just act like a really high powered solar panel. So let's plug it in. All right, I see the current ramping up. There we go, 20 amps. Okay. And it says that it's current limited on the status here. Let's get an idea of what the temperature is. Look guys, it's 105, just the top here. Just being outside, it is hot today. Okay, so let's see what so we got 108 on the charge controller. Let's get the back. 106 on the back. And then basically almost 106 ambient in here. So we're gonna sit there and let that thing charge. So it does 20 amps. It's doing 540 watts. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn this thing on, I think, or should I? Because it outputs heat back here. I don't want it to heat this thing up anymore. But I need to because it's gonna end up charging this battery. Or actually, hold on. So we got the pipes hooked up here and diverted the other way. All right. Okay, I do feel this thing getting a little warmer now, but it's still cranking away at 20 amps. All right, I'm just gonna let that run for a little while and then we'll come back. All right guys, so we're down to 9.5 amps, and it's because we've fully charged the battery. The power that's being drawn right now, 270 watts, is what this thing is using. So what I need to do is disconnect this and allow this to drain the battery down some more, and then we can get it back up to 20 amps. But I mean, this thing did get warmer, but it's not like terrible. 106 on my desktop, 106.7 actually, and then we've got 127, 141 right there. It doesn't feel that terrible, but this gets uncomfortable holding your hand on it. So let's unplug this to let the battery drain down, and then we'll start up 20 amps again. All right, so we got the battery drawn down a little bit. So when I plug this back in, it'll go back up to 20 amps. Just keep an eye on it here. Yep, there we go, 20 amps. Back to 20 amps right there. And it's showing 136 Fahrenheit on the controller. So it does get a little bit warm. I'm guessing we're about probably 30, maybe 40 degrees over ambient when this thing is pulling a full 20 amps. Not terrible. I've definitely had some charge controllers that seem to be much hotter. So I am no doubt impressed with this thing. Just the portability of it, the size, with Bluetooth, that's amazing. That's a cool charge controller. I like it. And I'm thinking of a lot of uses. mean, you literally could use this to supplement your existing system. So if you get a 12 or 24 volt system that's kind of maxed out, you could add more solar panels by putting one of these in line with extra solar panels and then connecting it to your batteries. You immediately have extra power without having to upgrade your system. Just really neat. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments, your feedback. Please like, subscribe if you have not already. And that's going to be the end of the video, and I'll catch you on the next one.